My name's Teresa, and I'll be your tour guide today. Before we begin, I'd like to give you a little background information about Acacia Ridge. Acacia Ridge is located in the Gulf of Carpentaria by the Arfura Sea. We are a semi-desert, semi-grassland city with average temperatures of 20 to 32 degrees Celsius. We are currently standing in the central sculpture garden in the heart of the city. Oh, and look, here comes my friend Ellie, who's an engineer, and Lindsay, who's a land surveyor. You guys know so much about the city. Want to help me with the tour today?
Sure, we'd love to.
Great. Now, as we begin, let's dive into the past of Acacia Ridge. Before going all electric, Acacia Ridge was like all other cities, burning fossil fuels day in and day out, putting more and more CO2 into our atmosphere and harming our environment.
After a while, Acacia Ridge became an unhealthy place to live. Due to high levels of CO2, our ocean was acidifying, people could not breathe, and children were getting sick. Acacia Ridge had the highest CO2 levels in the world, and people were fleeing the city and our economy was suffering.
So the people of Acacia Ridge decided to go all electric.
And in the process, had to sacrifice a lot.
For starters, we had to give up all of our non-electric vehicles and we had to learn how to use less electricity. This is because it costs a lot to power a whole city. We also had to learn how to use less water. This is because 50% of our water comes from desalination.
I've heard about this thing called desalination, but what is it?
Desalination is the process of taking water from the ocean, putting it through various water treatment systems, and then shipping it out for use. The cost, however, is great, which is why we only have one treatment facility and it's only 50% of our water. The other 50% is groundwater around 200 feet in the desert.
There's brine left over from desalination, right?
Yes, that's right.
So what do we do with it?
We turn it into sea salt.
Which you can get at www.acaciaridgesalt.com.
The salt uses up the leftover brine so that it doesn't go to waste.
I love that we're making the most of our natural resources.
Speaking of nature, if you look to your right, you'll see one of the many vertical garden apartments we have here in Acacia Ridge.
The best part about these apartments, though, is the drones that manage them. These drones were specifically designed by agricultural engineers to help with agriculture all around the city. These drones can also help with infrastructure, delivery of goods, emergency services, and land surveying. This fleet consists of about 312 drones in total.
As I was saying, the residents that don't live in the vertical garden apartments live in single or multi-family housing located in our residential and commercial mixed zones. You will notice on today's tour that all residential homes, along with all buildings in Acacia Ridge, have solar panels on top of them. The reason for this is one of the main ways Acacia Ridge gets energy from the sun.
Another way Acacia Ridge gets energy from the sun is through our solar power towers, which are located in the Tanami Desert away from the city. These towers work having a circling mirrors around the tower that deflect sunlight off of them onto a receiver on the top of the tower that produces steam that spins a turbine and then generates electricity.
You may be thinking of this part of the tour. This is a lot of expensive technology Acacia Ridge has. How can they afford it all? Well, one way we afford it is through tours like these. Acacia Ridge has many walking and boat tours all around the city.
And the great thing about our tour boats is that they're all electric and driven autonomously with human crew on hand to assist if a problem arises. Actually, this is true for all boats in Acacia Ridge, including our cargo ships.
Our marine and mechanical engineers worked hard to make sure these cargo ships can work. We also have a fleet of 40 eVTOL planes that consist of a front and then a back half that can be detached easily.
Hey, it reminds me of the big trucks you see driving around the city all the time. Ellie, tell me more about those.
Absolutely. Those are our pantograph trucks. A pantograph sits on top of these trucks using a two-pole system to deliver electricity at quick speeds. These trucks also make less noise, so therefore they have less environmental impact overall. These pantographs can attach and detach from these wirings at any time so that they can drive around the city whenever they need to.
Not only do we use this system for our pantograph trucks, we also use this system for our public transportation. Speed and efficiency are the main benefits of the system.
Fortunately, Acacia Ridge has no shortage of sunshine. But on those occasional rainy days, Acacia Ridge has many cinemas, theaters, indoor sporting events that you can visit. Oh, and look, we're coming up along one of the many famous swimming beaches Acacia Ridge has.
But what you can see, even with our crystal clear waters, is our tidal generators and our wind turbines located all across the coast. They are located here because that's where you'll find all the strong wind that Acacia Ridge has.
Now, as we enter back into the heart of the city, you may notice that the roads in Acacia Ridge don't look like normal roads. That's because they're not normal roads. Roads in Acacia Ridge are made out of a durable solar panel material that can be driven on while collecting sunlight. This is the third and final way Acacia Ridge gets energy from the sun.
And a great is how they're set up. Acacia Ridge uses a grid system of main roads to divide up the city.
And the best part about our grid is that Acacia Ridge is a 15-minute city.
It's super convenient for our day-to-day needs. And our main modes of transport here in Acacia Ridge are public transit, electric cars, e-bikes, e-scooters, and walking.
Due to our main modes of transportation, you will notice on today's tour that there are charging stations all throughout the city.
You keep talking about all this electricity. You haven't actually told how it gets to where it needs to go.
And the answer to that is our microgrids.
Microgrids were so important in designing the city.
That's so true. Our microgrids are designed by electrical engineers to ensure safe and quick transportation of electricity all throughout the city.
And yet you never see any power.
That's because they're all located underground. Having underground power lines negates the risks to our population and also eases repairs.
Well, folks, this is about the end of our tour. We'd like to thank you for coming to Acacia Ridge today and say a couple final words. Overall, Acacia Ridge is on many people's lists of places they want to live. With our 100% electrified city and our very positive attitude towards the environment, Acacia Ridge is a strong leader in electrified cities.
Thank you for visiting Acacia Ridge.
And we hope to see you again soon.
Great, you just said that the city's 100% electric, right? Is it a good idea to have a city that's 100% electric? Why or why not?
So we personally think that it is a good idea to have an electrified city. And our main reason for this is that in today's world, climate change is a real problem that is continuing to get worse. And even today, we can see the effects. And an electrified city like this that is fully run on renewable energy and electricity, it helps mitigates the problem that we are seeing from climate change, creating a more comfortable atmosphere. And we personally think that, yes, some of the cons are that you have to adjust to this new lifestyle using less electricity and getting used to seeing all the solar panels on your roof and having to maintain them. But we personally believe that these pros are much better than the cons.
You may have just answered the question I was supposed to ask you, but if you'd like to add anything, what trade-offs did your city and or its residents have to make due to energy sources chosen? And you don't have to add if you don't want to.
One trade, sorry. One trade-off is that a non-electric lifestyle is much more convenient. It's easier. Using less electricity is difficult and it can be frustrating, but overall, it's so much better. The pros outweigh the cons when it comes to the health of our residents.
What was a challenge you encountered while building your model or creating the city presentation, and how did your team overcome this challenge?
One challenge we found when building our model was how we wanted to set up the gridding system, because we couldn't decide what we wanted our scale to be at first. And it took us a long time to really understand what we really wanted the final product to look like. But in the end, we decided to go with the 1 inch equals 50 feet scale, and it really worked out. And then another challenge was building our truck. We, for the longest time, couldn't figure out what materials to use for it, and we didn't know exactly how we wanted it to look. But in the end, we figured out how to make it. And does anybody?
I would say the hardest part about the presentation was coming up with the gag and then really putting what we wanted to say. And
I'm gonna say the hardest part about that essay was we had so much random information that didn't fit together. And it was like, we had 40 power sources that like we couldn't all work together, and it was like chaotic, and we had to like split things down and organize it. That was probably the hardest part.
How does your city attract and support a diverse population of residents? And how does your city design ensure equal access and opportunity for people with disabilities?
Acacia Ridge attracts and supports a diverse community of residents by our welcoming attitude, having moderate taxes, affordable housing, and clean, safe neighborhoods, programs for education and finding jobs, free healthcare, and to ensure equal opportunities for people with disabilities. All public buildings and public transportation have wheelchair access, and Acacia Ridge is a 15-minute city, meaning people with mobility issues, everything they need is in a 15-minute walking distance, making things just a little bit more convenient.
So you just mentioned finding jobs. What type of industries are there in your city and what type of jobs are they?
So our two main industries are tourism and commercial fishing, and we have lots of engineering jobs available because our schools like to focus on STEM and STEAM education to make sure that people really know what they want to do in their lives. But we have all sorts of jobs available here.
Yeah, really, we just have all the normal jobs you find in the city. We have medical professionals, first responders. We have people keeping up with the roads, people collecting trash, people there to help people with disabilities. We have all types of jobs.
And just to add, commercial fishing is one of the main ways that Acacia Ridge gets income. So fishing is a pretty big profession here.
Long as he's on.
How did the engineering design process help you create and develop your city?
So when we were creating Acacia Ridge, our problem was that the city was full of CO2, climate change problem. Sea levels were rising, land was disappearing. The city was just not a fun place to live. So our idea was to build a city that was fully electric, that would help mitigate problems that climate change was bringing up for our citizens and to just make our citizens happy. So we started by drawing out the design, and that design was fully powered by electricity. We had some we thought about fusion for a little bit. So we just drew out the designs. We then would build a model. We built a model of what we were thinking and just put all of our ideas into real life. So then we tested it. We asked the citizens, is this a city you would want to live in? Is this a city you could see yourself, see your kids living in for a long time? After getting their feedback, we made improvements. We realized that maybe all of this wouldn't work. We realized that we had too many power sources. One thing we really focused on when building the city is that we didn't want to have so many power sources that we had extra electricity, that we were wasting electricity. So one thing we really worked on is only having enough so that in the future, as our city grew, we could build more. And then we just repeated that process. And then eventually we shared the final product with the citizens. Our citizens voted on it, and before you see the Acacia Ridge that you voted on.
What processes did your team use to stay on schedule?
The Acacia Ridge team had a Jamboard and a group chat, and where we posted our schedule, our weekly schedule, and to stay on schedule with like regular meetings. We had a library close to our school we would often visit, and we had a restaurant that we would always go to. And we'd see each other in class every day, so we always work.
How do residents in your city communicate with each other?
Acacia Ridge hopes to create the feeling of a small community within a big city. All public spaces are designed with the intent for face-to-face interaction and relationship building. And if you're not talking to face-to-face, Acacia Ridge citizens also utilize cell phones, emailing, and video conferencing.
This is the last question. What is the most futuristic part of your city?
I would say that the most eastern part of our city is actually going to turn around, is our drones. Our drones are all throughout the city. We have exactly 312. They take care of land surveying. They can identify cracks in roads and potholes that may be dangerous to cars. They take care of our vertical garden apartments to make sure they are well watered. They just do a lot of jobs in the city that might be hard for humans to do or keep up.
Great. Thank you.